this. We're not allowed to like strum the spring.
Yeah, I mess with the little.
Are you recording now?
Because you can hear it when you do it.
Yeah, I mess with the little
So
knob
don't, like,
here
ping it
and like
once.
just like press the wire all the time.
All right. Jake, do you consider dropping the ball in front of someone to be unsportsmanlike?
Well, you were talking about this a little bit ago in the office, and I was half listening, and it sounded like you were saying like you got taunted beforehand, and this was kind of like a.
I didn't get taunted.
Okay.
So we play in our flag football league every Sunday morning. It's like
Hi, John.
something we look forward to.
Hi, Jake.
Welcome to Eye on Sports, where we delve into the biggest Butler County sports topics. I'm your host, Butler Eagle Sports writer Derek Pyda. Joining me are fellow sports writer Brendan Howe and Eagle Sports editor Jake Merda Adams.
So I wasn't getting taunted. The team we played, they were playing physically. Quinlan Hanley, who we have on one of these papers over here, is on my team. We wore gray shirts. So he got his shirt ripped early in the game. Like, they were reaching for the flag, but also pulling on the shirt to keep him from running away as they grabbed the flag. So they ruined his shirt. He had to take it off. He played shirtless the rest of the game. So I had a few catches, and as I'm trying to run with the ball, they're like sandwiching me. And at one point, 3 of them like converged on me and tackled me. They didn't even go for my flag, they tackled me. So I got up, and that made me mad. But the kid's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to tackle you," so I just walked away. And each time I would go to pull their flags, like I would rush a quarterback, he would jump up as he threw it, and he would purposefully kick his leg out and kick me in the leg. Like, he hit me in the knee, and then later in the game, Tyler threw me a pass, and I'm running in the middle of the field, and instead of trying to grab my flag, kid just punted me in my calf. I was like, okay, like this is – I turned around and I asked, I was like, why do you guys like kicking so much? Like, what is this about? Next play, Tyler and I run an option. Tyler pitches it to me. I have the chance to throw or run, so I run with it, and they slam me into the wall, and they rip my shirt, just shred it. So at this point, I'm like, I've had enough, and I take the ball, and I knew what I was doing. I threw it behind me. The kid was sitting on the ground. I made it like I didn't know, and I just dropped the ball. Ref blew the whistle, kicked me out of the game for taunting. I was like, I've been tackled 3 times, I've been kicked, and now I get in trouble for dropping a ball. So I can show you the video, I can show John the video, but I didn't argue it because I figure, I always think when I watch like sports games, like, arguing with the referee never gets a call overturned. So I just walked away. I was like muttering, swearing under my breath, and I go to the bench and I'm out the rest of the game. My team won, but I was like, there's no point in arguing because then I just look silly. Like, so.
Well, you've got the sort of body that's kickable. I've had the urge to kick you on so many
John
occasions. It's not
is
even,
back. I've never heard so much drama from flag football league.
It's fun, but like, even my
as-
friends, I'm not crazy because I was like getting kicked, and I was like, I know I'm not crazy, and my friends saw it too. So it's not like I was just like belly aching. I was like, you're tackling me, you're running into me, you're shredding my shirt. I was like, this doesn't seem like cool.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm sure we're playing soccer players because they really liked to kick.
Brendan,
So.
you get taunted pretty much through everyday life. You get taunted constantly.
I do.
How would you know whether you're taunted or whether you're not taunted?
I don't know.
Because you get taunted all the time.
It's just commonplace.
That's how he would know. There's no better expert than Brendan.
Tell you,
As Brendan's world turns,
I was
the
joking.
daily drama.
I was joking with. Here we go. She's gonna mark it down. I was joking with Bailey last night. Went to Cheesecake Factory for our date for Valentine's Day, and they come out with a big bowl of pasta, and I just downed the whole bowl of pasta. Like it's like a box of pasta, and the lady comes out, the waitress. She goes, "I'm impressed. You ate all of that." And I was like, "You don't understand. Like I train for this every day. I have pasta like 4 times a week, and
Trained for this every
I trained for that. I did not train for the half marathon. That I
Obviously.
Sean doesn't get the joke. He doesn't get that.
We gotta have just like a little like bing and like a number that just shows up in the screen every time, just where you mark it there every time he brings up like he brings up Bailey, and we've got in every episode at some point.
I'm in a
and we've gotten to
caring,
the
loving
point where
relationship.
Laura like marks it, like makes a note of like, we barely got 2 minutes into the show today, or we barely got 15 minutes into the show today.
Well, you know, clearly Bailey's got to be a guest on this show at some point. I mean, it's what it
Really
sounds like
do
to
have
me.
to
It's
do
what it
that.
sounds like to me.
At least
You gotta
call
do
in.
that.
At least call
I
in.
She
tricked
needs to be
her.
on.
I tricked her Friday night. Whenever I text you, I called her and I set this up early in the day. I was like, I got a lot of freelance writing to do after I'm done covering my game tonight. Like, I'm not gonna be able to see you. I'm sorry. And so I got her to accept the fact that she wasn't gonna see me on Valentine's Day. And then I told you I left the game, And I went and bought her. She likes pretzel M&Ms, and she likes Dr. Pepper. So I went to Sheetz, and I was like, it's a small gesture, but. So I called her. So
I like Butterfingers.
Oh, she didn't see you on Valentine's Day?
No, wait. You'll see. So we have each other's location on text, like on iMessage, and I figured I was like, if I keep texting her while I'm driving, it's gonna show that I'm in Cranberry. So I called her, and I'm sitting there stalling for like 20 minutes, like talking to her on the phone, and I'm making it like I'm not coming to see her, and then like I get to hers and I start laughing because like I've kept it a secret that I was going to see her. And I have a key to her place, so she's curling her hair, straightening her hair or something. And I sneak into her apartment, and I walk down the hall, and she sees my, like, reflection, and she didn't know it was me. She just thought some guy in her
She
apartment.
chucks the hair curl out your head.
I get in there, and she, like, screams, and her heart, she's like, my heart is, like, beating out of my chest. And she was happy that I came to see her.
I'll tell you what, Brendan, how that Casanova.
Well, she didn't panic when she didn't know it was Brendan. It could have been one of the other guy she saw.
Oh, boy. Oh, that's messed up.
I thought he was going to say that she doesn't find Brendan intimidating, which could have been easily.
She doesn't. No, she doesn't. She thinks that she can take me.
I was going to say, if you didn't see Bailey on Valentine's Day, it's no problem. I'm sure she saw somebody else.
I didn't see her on her birthday because that was like right when we started dating, and I worked that night, so I didn't see her that night. But I figured if I didn't see her on her birthday and Valentine's Day, I probably would have like some points probably would have dropped there.
Oh, it's so nice the older you get when like Valentine's Day doesn't matter as much anymore. Where it's just like, okay, yeah, we'll go get like dinner and maybe see a movie or something like. So Mallory and I have been there for so long.
So what was the big gift on Valentine's Day? I missed that. What did you get?
I didn't get her a big gift. I got her roses on Thursday when I had off, and those like looked nice. I've never seen like a rose open up. Like I've only ever seen them like closed. She brought me out yesterday, and they're in like a vase in her kitchen. And she's like, "Look, they're so pretty." I was like, "I've never seen roses like that." So, but we got dinner on Saturday night at the Chop Shop. That wasn't like Valentine's. That was just like getting a dinner, really good. We went out to dinner last night, and then we watched Cars. Have you watched Cars yet, John?
No.
That's a shame.
You haven't seen Rocky yet, so don't tell me about watching movies. Tell me about watching movies. You haven't even seen a Rocky movie.
Thank you.
Have you seen Cars?
Yes.
Okay, good. I know you guys.
I've seen Cars,
right?
yeah.
That movie will never get old to me.
John, have you seen Napoleon Dynamite?
No.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure why we're high-fiving, but okay.
because Derek and I and Laura all love Napoleon Dynamite because it's a very dumb movie, but it's very funny.
It's so dumb, it's funny.
And Brendan hates Napoleon Dynamite, and it's just like the latest thing of just like Brendan's in the wrong here. But now you're allies together, and I feel bad for you.
We've always been allies. Don't worry.
It's the one-liners from Rocky. Me and John could go back and forth.
Oh my gosh, from every Rocky movie.
I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
Speaking of movies, I saw Captain America, Brave New World yesterday. That was my Valentine's Day. Was going out to a movie.
There you go.
Which movies do you go to?
The one in Cranberry. Something cinema.
Did you go into the relaxing, like the reclining seats?
Yeah.
It's a nice movie theater.
Yeah,
I like that there.
It was very nice. I was concerned I was going to fall asleep because I was tired when I got up that day. And I was like, crap, we're going to eat lunch. I'm going to have food coma. I'm going to be watching a movie. I'm going to pass out during this. Thankfully, I did not. It was all right. It wasn't bad. It was kind of a like watered down version of Captain America Winter Soldier, which I think is like the best MCU movie that there is. But
what horror movie?
Yeah, Laura just said that her Valentine's Day was watching a scary movie alone with her dog. For any available men listening to this podcast right now that aren't Derek's dad,
Your dog was probably better company than any man could be.
long legs.
I've heard of that, but I have not seen that, and I don't think I want to.
Cage.
Oh God.
Oh.
You wouldn't think that he would be creepy, but
I wouldn't think that Nick Cage could be creepy.
Scary. No, I mean he's like the way that they.
Have you met Nick Cage? Have you seen?
Have
Nick
you
Cage?
met him? She's met Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, at your gym where you've met every single.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Laura knows Wayne Gretzky. She's getting him on the show.
David Beckham.
Oh,
Who's like
Wayne Gretzky on? Okay.
my wife's hall pass is David Beckham, so can't tell her that one. Can't give her his number.
I ate pizza and watched a horror film with my dog.
I had ramen and sushi for lunch.
I went to bed at like
Oh,
I'm playing video games at 9:30.
I feel tempted to drive back to Bailey's and have the rest of the cheesecake I left last night.
I bet that's why you're going back. Okay.
So in other words, you wouldn't have one cookie here, but you'll go back and have more cheesecake.
Mr.
You guys
Football,
notice the eyebrows? You guys notice them? You know,
have they been
they've been
treated?
plucked and waxed.
oh,
and
Wow.
jeez. Here we go. How do I
Pretty.
follow a conversation up about his eyebrows? I'll tell you how we started off. We talk about the wrestling that happened this past
Oh, I
week.
was going to ask you what you did with your first Sunday without football in 4 months. Because we haven't heard from you at all today.
I played a lot of
Literally. In
you know what online. I can't say the word, but you know, it's a card game.
Terry
online.
Hanratty can say it.
Terry Hanratty. But just kind of lounged around, helped my wife do some laundry. Spoke with Will when he wasn't transfixed on his game,
Spoke
which
with
is 23 hours out of the day. No, it's this past weekend. You and I covered some pretty big wrestling. For you, it was the boys' Northern Sectional at Fox Chapel, and I covered the WPIAL Championship on the girls' side down at North Allegheny. And the girls' tournament really provided a feel-good story. As we all know, we did the story back in December about Braley, Ireland, who last year did not have a girls' team, so she was forced to wrestle against boys the entire regular season. She was scheduled to take part in the WPIAL girls tournament last year, but in her final regular season match against the boys, she blew her knee out, and she missed it. So this was her first opportunity to go to WPIALs, and what does she do? She wins a WPIAL championship at 118 pounds. The final match came down between her and the number 1 seed from Mount Lebanon, a girl named Paige Jocks, and Braley got an early takedown and never trailed the match, won 7-3. And I talked with her after after she got her medal, and you could just tell it was just a feeling of satisfaction, because on one hand she was happy just to be there because she missed it the year before, but to go in there, win 4 bouts. The first 3 were by 2 pins and a tech fall, so dominating, and then she goes up against the number 1 seed and handles her 7-3. So kudos to Braley, Ireland from Knock. Knock's first year with a varsity girls wrestling program, and they already have a WPIAL champion. So great job for her. Great job by Logan Downs in that young program. The other thing that I thought really stood out about the girls on Saturday was a girl from Seneca Valley, Adele Shai Calabro, entered the tournament unseeded. 9-7 record, so kind of a modest record, but she ended up beating 3 seeded girls on her way to a 4th place finish, and with the top 6 moving on to regionals, obviously she's going to be advancing. It's kind of a cool story because she grew up in Cranberry, and about 3 or 4 years ago, her and her parents moved to Nevada, and then about this time last year, she found out they were moving back to Pennsylvania, to Seneca Valley School District, Evans City. And she knew that Seneca Valley's had started up a girls program, and she knew right then, even before the move took place, I'm joining the wrestling team when I get back to Seneca Valley. So here she goes from unseeded to 4th place finish and headed to Western Regionals, which is going to take place 2 Saturdays from now, back down at North Allegheny. But just a feel-good story for a girl who I don't think a lot of people thought she was going to do much in that tournament, and as it turned out, she ended up being a thorn in the sides of some of the top wrestlers at the tournament.
You could see, too, Justin Guido, shout out to him. He shot the photography at that meet, and you could see some of the photos of Braley. Like, the quarterfinal win was one she's got a really big smile on, like, celebrating with her coach. Then she's got, like, this almost disbelieving smile after the championship bout. Yeah. Like, it's pretty cool to see stuff like that. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, she was actually the only Knock girl to advance, but we ended up with, I believe, 5 Seneca Valley girls and I think 3 Butler girls. So we got, I believe that's 9 going on to regionals. And if I cover that on March 1st, we'll see it. But it's going to be interesting to see how the girls that make it there kind of, develop their stories. Are they able to get the states? How do they do at regionals? Because regionals is going to include the WPIAL girls who were good enough to get there, as well as City League and District 10, which is the Erie district.
Yeah, it's the other interesting thing that I read too. I think WPIAL released the recap and stuff earlier today or late Sunday or something like that. We have 5 2-time champions in WPIAL now. Not we, the WPIAL does, because this is the second year that they have WPIAL Girls Wrestling Championships, and we already have some repeats, which is kind of it's just going to continue to build from here, which is a good sign.
Oh, yeah, and at some point, WPIAL at the boys level is single A and double A and triple A.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I mean, we've talked about how girls wrestling has kind of exploded in the district, in the region, but they still don't have enough teams to make double A and triple A. So there were, championship bouts this past Saturday that were between a girl from, say, North Allegheny, which is a huge high school enrollment-wise, against a girl from Burgettstown or Fort Cherry, which is a much smaller school, obviously. But it's coming. At some point, it's going to be divided into 2 classes as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, the incredible thing to me about girls wrestling in Pennsylvania is how quickly it's taken off. I mean, usually, like you guys said, last year was the first year that they had WPIAL girls wrestling. It really was the first year, last year, for a lot of schools in the Western PA to even have a team. And I covered that WPIAL girls tournament last year. Derek, you just saw it this year. It amazed me how fast that sport. I mean, from the quarterfinals on down.
Yeah.
Strong competitive matches. I mean, and usually it takes, for a new sport like that, it takes a while. But when girls wrestling around there, it's just taken off right away.
It is, and we talked about it earlier on the show months back about Mars. I mean, Mars is going to have a program at some point.
Yep.
There's a lot of good athletes at that school. It's a decent-sized school. It's not the size of Butler or Seneca, but they can support a girls wrestling team down there, no doubt. It's coming. It's just a matter of time.
John, your comments kind of reminded me of like PIAA back in like 2019, 2020. There was push from some schools and some programs that weren't affiliated with PIAA to try to get girls wrestling sanctioned by PIAA, and they were like hemming and hawing for a while.
Yep.
Like, well, we need to see some more schools build.
They
some
put a limit on it.
Yeah,
they had I think it was like 90 schools or 120 schools.
Yeah, which is like part of
that.
it's part of their charter and everything.
Yes.
It's all bylaws and everything like that. But there was a lot of people who were like, if you like create an exception for this sport, it will take off. Exactly. And they're like, well, we can't do that. We just don't see the interest at it. It's like, okay, you got Ohio doing this. I think New York was about ready to launch. Like a bunch of states were launching, and Pennsylvania considers itself basically the crown jewel of high school wrestling. And they're like, and you guys aren't going to be at the front lines of this whole thing. And now they finally launch it. And like you said, look at how quickly, like it was there the entire time, and they were a little slow to it, but now we're finally starting to see it pay off.
Oh, no doubt. It's just part of female sports in this day and age in general. You guys see how quickly the flag football is taking off now on the girls' side. Girls' basketball is worlds better than it's ever been. I mean, you can go on and on and on. It's just the increasing competitiveness and talent level of female sports in general.
Yeah.
Wrestling is just part of that.
Jake, you covered the Northern Sectional for boys AAA at Fox Chapel on Saturday, so we're talking Mars, Seneca Valley, Butler.
Yep.
What did you come away from covering that? What stood out for you?
Well, first it was my first chance to see all of these wrestlers in person. So like all the coverage and videos and whatnot I'd seen beforehand, it's a little bit different getting there in person with it. And it's kind of how I expected it. There were 2 very different tiers from our local teams. You had Sloboda and Chop from Butler, who basically the entire tournament was don't get injured, don't do anything stupid, and you're going to be just fine. Chop wins his second straight sectional, I think it is, and Sloboda makes it number 3. And it was just tactical the entire time. And they just dismantled whoever they faced. I got their second round quantity, so I didn't see like their first matchups. But I mean, quarterfinals for those 2 guys is a walk in the park. Even their championship bouts. Like I was talking with Stoner a little bit, Coach Stoner, before the finals started, and he's like, I think Sloboda is going to have a little bit of a challenge because the guy he was going up against had dropped down a weight from regular season and whatnot. So a little bit of a bigger guy. Sloboda was also coming off of, he was sick most of the week, didn't really get a chance to practice, so his stamina wasn't quite there. And Stoner was just like, I could see this one being a challenge. He still expected a win, but maybe it was going to be a little bit more difficult than the earlier ones that day. Sloboda took him down. The only shock, I guess, to it was it took him 3 periods to work a tech fall instead of 2. I think if he had been healthier, and he kind of admitted it, he's like, if I had been healthier, I would have beaten him a lot faster. But he still looked smooth. All of his attacks were there. I think he was just a little bit slower to kind of go from one shot to the next. The second tier of athletes, we had, I think it was 9 total from that section make it to WPIAL's next week. Some really good wrestlers in there too, but Sloboda and Chop kind of stand out amongst the rest. I did think the one thing that was kind of interesting was we had a couple young wrestlers too that looked good. You had the Passarelli kid from Mars, Sam. He's a freshman. He finished 3rd at 121. Had to wrestle back through consolations to survive and make it to WPIAL's a top 6 getting there, but did his job. He looked pretty strong in the 3rd place bout against Butler Stutz. Was able to connect on a side shot in sudden victory, turned a 1-1 tie into a 4-1 win. And then from Butler, it was Swedzinski, another freshman. He rallied, same thing, had to rally through consolations. Took a bad loss, or I shouldn't say bad, just a tough loss against a better opponent in the championship bouts, and then falls down to consies, has to wrestle his way back and makes it into 6th. He loses to I think it was a Fox Chapel kid in the 5th place match, but by that point his seat's secure. Just for freshmen being in a postseason environment, you never quite know how are they going to hold up, and both of those guys did reasonably well and had to survive wrestlebacks to make it to WPIALs, and they did.
Santino Sloboda will be going for his 2nd straight WPIAL championship. That's this Saturday at Cannon McMillan High School. I'll be down there. But, John, as good as Santino's been, is there anybody that is familiar with him and Butler wrestling that surprises as a youth wrestler moving up through the ranks, youth, junior high? I mean, this kid was putting up great performances the whole way up. So you've covered him a couple of years ago. He did really well as a freshman. Last year he wins his first WPIAL title. What makes this kid tick? What keeps him going on the mat?
I think the difference, you see a lot of these young kids do these youth travel tournaments during the year, and a lot of them, I'm not going to use the term burn out, but I think that they more or less, a lot of them just get tired of the sport. As you know, wrestling's a grueling sport, and wrestling's tough, especially when you're into it year-round, when you're doing all these summer tournaments, spring tournaments on top of the winter season. And a lot of these kids just get tired of it. They either move on to a different sport, or they get out of it entirely, or they stay with the sport, and their performance level drops a little bit. In Santino's case, I go back to like Cole Baxter, Butler stand-up from years back, who won Butler's first WPIAL title in the program's history. Santino reminds me a lot of Cole Baxter in the drive and the love, the passion for the sport of wrestling. You just don't see that. It's very rarefied air. Yeah, the Alejandro Herrera Rondon from a couple years ago from Scenic Valley, he had that. And their records reflect that. Santino's record, I think 115-6 right now.
He's got 6 losses.
Yeah, he's got 115 wins. His goal from his freshman year, I remember doing a story on him early in his freshman year when he started off undefeated, and he still, correct me if I'm wrong here, he still has not lost a regular season match yet.
No.
In his that's crazy when you think about it, in his entire high school career. But anyway, it's his passion for it. He loves the science of the sport. You talk to Scott Stoner about him. I'm sure, Jake, you've probably done this, and Derek, you've probably done this. You talk to Scott Stoner, almost admits it's hard to coach him because he coaches himself. By that, he comes up with moves and holds and counters that other kids just don't do. And that Scott admits, I don't even know what he's doing out there half the time. He just does his own thing. I just let him go. I just make sure he doesn't get caught doing something too crazy. But he's so smart, it just doesn't happen. So it's all those factors put in. He's got a love for that sport that you rarely see in a kid. And went off on a tangent there, but what I was about to say earlier was his freshman year, his goal right away was to break Cole Baxter's career win record at Butler, which I believe is 160 wins. He's at 115 now. It's doable, but it's going to take 2 deep postseason runs for that to happen. But I wouldn't put it past this kid because he sets a goal for himself, and he uses that as motivation.
One more note on wrestling. I believe it was at the Doughboy Northern Sectional this past weekend, which I believe it was at Keystone Oaks High School. Knox middleweight Owen Lehue won a section title, and he'll be obviously moving on to the Doughboy WPIAL Championships. We're going to turn our focus now from the mat to the water Our main diving man here, Brendan Howe, is getting a feature story done on Allie Waters from Seneca Valley. She just recently broke Ashley Felitsky's school record. It wasn't by just a few points. I think it was by about 16, 17 points, Brendan. What did you get from that interview?
Main swimming man and now main diving man as well.
I have to wake up there, Brendan.
I'm awake. I just needed to, cough. Listen to John talk over here, puts me to sleep.
Just don't taunt him. Just don't taunt him. Don't taunt him.
No, I talked to Seneca Valley's diving coach on Friday, and she told me that Allie started as a gymnast, and I kind of thought back to your story on Miranda Lejevic that we talked about with her doing gymnastics first, and that kind of translating to a different sport along with the other things you mentioned about her. But she went straight to diving from gymnastics. I'm going to ask her why. I want to talk to her tonight, but that's really translated to the water, obviously, and that kind of makes sense with the twists and stuff. But the coach said instead of horizontal flips and stuff, it becomes vertical. And myself, I don't know how to dive. I can't do a regular dive. It scares me to put my head down.
He does a
in the
cannonball.
water. I can do a pencil dive.
Wait, you've never dove into the water, dove?
I have videos of myself when I was a lifeguard trying to, and I couldn't. Like, it scares me.
Wow.
Yeah, so I can't dive.
Wow.
But
what a revelation.
That I can jump off the diving board, and that doesn't scare me, but diving itself.
Diving scares you.
Yeah.
What scares you about it?
I don't like putting my head down. Like, I don't like my head being, like, I don't like the feeling of my head being where my feet should be. Like, it just...
The only time Brendan's ever dove was when he was driven to the turf in a football game by
when I dove into that bowl of pasta last night. I'll tell you that.
A good feature story into Brendan's fears.
No, but I think it's really cool, her story. I can't wait to talk to her tonight and find out more of like the specifics of why she chose diving or why she went in diving. Her mom was a diver, so I'll probably talk to her about that. Maybe your mom too. But we do have some other girls. Knock and Freeport don't have any divers going to WPIAL this year, from what their coaches told me earlier today. I'm still waiting on Troy Cole to get back to me from Butler. I'm sure they have a diver too. But Mars has Maya Lee, who Derek has said in the past is a pretty talented diver, and Marin Rabel. And then Seneca Valley has a few others that I need to figure out too within tonight. So I'm going to talk to the coaches about that. And I think it'll be a cool story to – I always like diving into why kids do something rather than why they're good at it. Oh, I wasn't even trying. I wasn't even trying to do that. See, I'm not that clever. So.
We have to, before we move on to the next segment, there is some sad news. John, I don't know if you heard this from over the weekend. Former Seneca Valley football coach and AD at both Seneca and East Brady, Terry Henry, passed away over the weekend. He was 75. That's Jim Kelly's high school football coach.
Yep.
So
and former coach of Seneca Valley.
Yep, Seneca Valley. And I was reading his bio. He had been taken into like 5 different halls of fame.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So guy is recognized literally around the entire state. And he passed away on Sunday morning at the age of 75.
Well, if you remembered Jim Kelly's speech when he went into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he spent a few minutes chatting about Terry Henry.
He did.
That's
and I actually
Terry meant to
included some of those quotes from, because I watched it on YouTube yesterday when I did the story. So, a good one gone, but obviously he made an impact on a lot of people's lives. Jim Kelly said during his speech, granted this was 23 years ago now, but he said Terry Henry has remained a very close friend to him and his family, and that speaks volumes.
Actually, I found that out this morning. I was shoveling snow this morning, and a neighbor walks over. Our neighbors across the street knew Terry Henry, knew his family, and came over and said, "Did you know Terry Henry died over the weekend?" I said, "No, I did not know that." So she started telling me stories. I guess he came up with some kind of brain disease, and he was gone within like 2 weeks. I mean, that's how he passed. It was a very sudden thing. So. He was healthy, prior to that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So our second discussion topic, we're going to break down. Actually, we're going to talk about 2 games. One's already been played. One's to be played. I covered Mars girls down at Shaler, not far from your brother.
Yeah, that's right.
On Friday, and Shaler entered the game as the number 4 seed. Mars was number 13. And I'm thinking, okay, I mean, I was looking at Shaler's numbers. They'd lost twice all season. They entered the game on a 9-game winning streak. And I'm thinking, okay, Shaler's going to win this game. Just the final score is the only thing that really needs to be determined. Shaler was up 7-5 after one quarter, but you could tell Shaler likes to run, and even in that first quarter, though they had a slim lead after 8 minutes, they were not able to play their game. And Tony Grenick, former BC3 and Point Park coach, told me after the game he expected Mars to come out in a zone defense, and right from the start, Mars played a man defense. And that just kept Shaler from getting into the flow, getting into the pace, a fast-paced game that they wanted to play. And they ended up scoring 23 points in that game. Yeah. Mars beat them 44-23. Yep. We talk so much, when we're talking about high school basketball, about the offensive end. I want to throw these three names out there because Zach Stitt said they were the ones in particular who kind of made that man-to-man defense go. Alexis Cashdollar, Carmela McDowell, and Gianna Delicio. They were the ones who kind of clamped down on, the players for Shaler who Zach Stitt, Mars's coach, knew could really hurt them. And those two players for Shaler averaged 32 points combined this year. They scored 15 on Friday.
Yeah. Wasn't even the only upset. They're going up against the 12th seed.
That's
next.
the cool.
It is cool.
Mars upsets Shaler, and now in the next round they're going up against a Bethel Park team that just upset Franklin Regional. Yeah. Yep. So it's a quarterfinal between a 12 seed and a 13 seed.
It's March Madness.
Well, so many sports.
February. A month early.
Well, so many sports, especially in basketball, once the playoffs come, defense wins. I mean, if you play, that's why I really like the Knox boys' chances moving forward.
Oh, really?
They play incredible defense. It's just incredible, in your face. You're not getting by me. Physical. They know when to foul. They know when to back off. I mean, they're going to be a tough out no matter who plays them.
They've allowed 50 points or fewer in 15 games this year.
That's what I mean.
Including the game I covered Friday.
Another thing with Knox is their I wrote this story about a week back. Their non-section schedule, this non-conference schedule. They played Johnstown, who last I checked is number 2 in the state. They're undefeated. Yep. They played Bishop Guilfoyle, which is a really good team. They played Baldwin. They played Bell Vernon. Just incredible. And then in their section.
And they played them all tough, too.
North Catholic. Yeah. They beat North Catholic.
Yep.
They split with them. They played Deer Lakes this year. So this team's the Knox boys are a team that's battle-tested, and that obviously can only help them as they move forward here.
When you can hold teams under 50 points, as Ben just pointed out, when you can do that, more often than not, you've got a real good chance to win. I'm not care who you're playing against.
One other game we're going to highlight is a game that I believe is being played Thursday.
I'll be there.
Yep, Butler girls. They're going down to Cannon McMillan. Excuse me. At the end of the regular season, Butler played North Allegheny and beat them for the first time in it was like over a decade, literally over a decade. I thought that was going to be good enough to get them the 4 seed and host a game. As it turned out, they're the 5 seed. They have to go on the road to play a Cannon McMillan team that's making its first appearance in the WPIAL playoffs in the better part of a decade. I did check one thing just before the show started here. Cannon McMillan's got 2 girls averaging between 11 and 12 points a game. Mm-hmm. That's their top 2 scorers. I think it's pretty clear that Butler with Amelia McMichael is going to have the best player on the floor. But as you know, that doesn't guarantee anything. I think a lot of it's going to come down to what kind of defense Cannon McMillan decides to play on McMichael. We could be looking at like a box and one. If they do need another basket, Melina McElroy, the other starters for Butler, Sydney Patterson, Avery Mayer, Cam Boer, who can come up with a couple more baskets, 5 or 6 points in support. But I personally think it's going to be enough for Butler to win. Cannon McMillan's obviously a good team, but I don't know if they're going to be able to handle Butler between McMichael and any support she gets from her team.
Butler's not deep off the bench, but they've got a very solid starting 5. As long as they stay out of foul trouble, they'll be hard to beat. You forget Mark Mayer's daughter Avery's not a bad player either, and she starts. McElroy, to me, I saw Butler play a couple times this year. From last year to this year, what a difference! Her game is really picked up.
She's a spark plug.
She plays like every sport too.
Then you have the point guard in Patterson and McMichael, a big scorer. They're 2 multi-year starters. That's a tough combo there too.
Yep.
It's we were talking about this a little bit last week though, and now this is the week where we get to actually see it in action. Is momentum. Like I'm not a big believer in momentum because
neither is Kevin Trost.
It can flip at any moment, really. But like both Butler boys and girls, boys playing tonight, Monday. So the results will be in well before this episode drops. But both those teams entering with a lot of momentum. 6-game win streak, 4-game win streak for each of them respectively. I think it is. Can they turn this thing into a run here of some sort? I don't think they're making a championship game necessarily, but can they stick around for a little bit?
I would definitely question momentum in between games.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. During a game, if you're down second half by, 7-8 points and you go on like a, 14-2 run, I definitely think during a game when you're able to have, 6-7 straight possessions go your way, it adds to your confidence. It may get the other team's confidence down. But I agree with you. I do question in between games exactly what does momentum mean.
Mm-hmm.
What was the old baseball saying? How momentum is
as good as your next day starting pitcher.
Yeah.
But, well, the other thing too in basketball, I mean, any momentum like teams like Butler may have had before. Well, now they haven't played in 10 days.
Yeah.
So to me, that's all gone. I mean, now I know it's a cliche, but now in the WPIAL playoffs, everyone really is starting over because nobody's played in so long.
And that might also benefit Seneca Valley because we know the Seneca Valley's boys ended the season on a 5-game losing streak. Maybe they need a break. Maybe they needed a few days off the court where they could just, collect themselves and kind of, reflect on, okay, what have we not done recently that we need to do to move on in the playoffs? And John, you'll be down there tonight. They got Woodland Hills, and Woodland Hills enters the playoffs on a 4-game winning streak.
Right.
So we'll see if Seneca Valley can break that.
But here's the thing, though, that they split during the regular season, and even during the late season struggles of Seneca Valley, they only lost to Woodland Hills by 2 points during that losing streak. So it's not like they haven't played with them. I mean, Woodland Hills beat them, or they beat Woodland Hills, I think, by 10 the first time, only lost them by 2 the second time. The big thing with Woodland Hills is it takes them a while every basketball season because so many of their football players are basketball standouts also. It takes them a while to find their basketball legs, so they're used to getting off the slow starts and coming on strong toward the end.
What are your guys' thoughts on facing a conference or league or section or division opponent in the first round of the playoffs?
I don't like it, but
6A you almost have to, though, because you only have 2 divisions.
Yeah,
It's
you only
kinda
have
hard
2 conferences. I did see the day the WPIAL pairings came out, they interviewed like a spokesman from the WPIAL, and he was obviously in on seeding these teams, and he specifically said that they try to avoid section matchups first round, but sometimes it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
You could easily do it, though, if you think about it. Just have a different formula. In other words, first place team from Section 1 plays the bottom qualifier from Section 2, and vice versa, and then the matchup crossover all the way down the list. 2 plays 5, or whatever. 2 plays 4, or however it works. So you could do it, but you have to totally change the seeding formula.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But it could be done.
She's right on cue with it.
I gotta redeem myself. I'm 11-13 now. That record's 1 week.
Calling me out. I don't even have a mic.
He said you were on top of it.
Right on cue.
Yeah. It was a compliment.
You're waiting for us to stop yapping so you can play.
He's going to ask me a question about Australian rules football here.
No, I'm gonna go with your strong suit here.
Oh.
Who is
Badminton.
the first Hall of Famer that the Steelers ever drafted?
All right, I get a couple minutes to think about that. Whatever.
And we stay with Brendan.
It's Beyond Butler with Brendan.
So we're gonna stay with the Steelers theme, much like the trivia question here, with Beyond Butler, our weekly segment where we talk about something outside of Butler County sports, whether that be professionally or collegiately. I almost tripped up in my words there. I had a dream last night, a very odd dream that the Steelers traded that the Steelers traded for Matthew Stafford, and they gave up a number 1 or first round pick and a second round pick for him. And I woke up and I was glad it didn't happen because I want them to sign my glorious Justin Fields,
your boyfriend.
So I want to ask you guys. Jake doesn't care about this, but he's gonna have to deal with it, putting the stories in the paper and reading the AP for the next year and a half. So, what quarterback would you like the Steelers to roll with next season? There's been a lot of rumors. They reached out to Trevor Lawrence, then reportedly they didn't reach out to see if Trevor Lawrence was available. Blah blah blah. Aaron Rodgers,
that
Matthew
can't be
Stafford.
true because Jacksonville doesn't even have a general manager.
Well,
so
maybe that's what they were trying to get to.
Yeah. Who are you reaching out to? If you're reaching out to
Trevor Lawrence
himself.
Yeah, the guy who wasn't sure he wanted to go to Jacksonville in the first place.
I know a Super Bowl winning quarterback who's available.
A Super Bowl champion.
Kenny Pickett.
Aaron Rodgers.
Kenny Pickett.
Oh my.
Bring him back.
Stop it.
He's untouchable right now, and you know it. He's untouchable. He's untouchable.
Did you see that throw he had in the fourth quarter?
Oh, man. See the way he took that
one
last
chance to
snap?
shine. It was his one moment. That was his moment.
Hey, he didn't throw a pick, so he actually has a passer rating in the Super Bowl, 39.7.
Mallory was like, he's so bad. I was like, he had one job, and that's not to turn the ball over. He did his job. Good for him. Good job, Kenny Pickett.
Exactly.
He's available.
Hey,
We'll trade him back.
Hey, we can laugh all we want to. That man's he's going to be wearing a Super Bowl ring. We can laugh all we want.
And Carson
Mickey
Wentz.
Mouse
He's going to be
ring.
wearing a Super Bowl ring.
And
He was a
Carson
backup.
Wentz
Yeah.
lost.
I would hate to wear a Super Bowl ring if I was a backup.
No, you would
I didn't
not.
contribute to this. I just practiced.
No, you
You'd
would
be
not.
shining that thing, showing that thing off all over the place.
Seriously.
And then people would see it, and they would just kick you. So that's
You'd show it to Bailey and be like, look what I won.
that's right.
The team won because of me. All that hard work and practice that I gave
Exactly.
them, showing them how to beat this team.
Hopefully he doesn't listen to this.
So who do we got?
As you know, during the season, at least after he took over and he started playing really well, I was totally fine with Russell Wilson. But he also did not play well down the stretch. I'm not one of those fans who like reads every single thing during the offseason. And for the Steelers, the offseason began over a month ago. Have they given any specific reason why they just don't give the job to Fields? Why don't they just give the job to Fields?
The thing that bothers me
You're
right
sign him
now.
first.
Right.
Well,
You're the free agent. You have to sign him
yeah,
first.
that's true.
I've written a lot for Steelers now. I've written a lot for other side jobs of like landing spots for quarterbacks, and it just doesn't make any sense that the Steelers would want to go with someone older like Aaron Rodgers. Like if it was Aaron Rodgers in 2020,
So bad.
if it was Aaron Rodgers in 2020, I'd be all in. Like, hey, this guy's still somewhat near his prime. He's not old and decrepit. I saw him play whenever they played the Jets, and it's just like he's just like Wilson. Like he couldn't really move around.
Yeah. He moves around less than Wilson.
Yeah.
So,
So I don't know. I don't just want Fields because I'm a big Ohio State fan. He's probably my second favorite player, right? I want Justin Fields because I feel that's the best chance. Like drafting a rookie at number 21, it's going to take a lot to move up.
It's a
None of the
bad
rookies are even
rookie
worth
class.
it.
Yeah,
Like-
it's a bad class.
So I don't understand. Like I think they should also factor in the draft is in Pittsburgh next year. If you sign Fields and he's not good this year, you gave him the chance. I'm happy with that. And then you take the guy.
Would Fields sign a 1-year contract though?
no.
No,
way.
I think it'd be.
You might not have a choice though. 'Cause
but
what's the
you
market
could-
for?
No,
You
I think to the contrary. I think there's too many teams out there that need quarterbacks who would have interest in a Justin Fields right now. No, I'm not saying like for a 5-year
Well-
deal, but I'm saying I'll bet you he can get a 3-year deal.
I think the only places, and I wrote about this recently, I think the only places where he could go and start right off the bat are Las Vegas, both New York teams, and maybe Tennessee. And those teams
Orleans.
all have
New Orleans.
New Orleans, to get rid of Derek Carr, I wrote about this. To get rid of Derek Carr, they would have to eat $50 million in dead cap to move on from him.
Wow, it's like half of the dead cap they already have to eat.
Yeah. So with that, like all those teams have early draft picks, and it would make sense for them to add him because it gives them flexibility, and that's part of what I've written about is you add Fields, you add a veteran quarterback like that is experienced. You don't have to worry about going for a passer and reaching. You could draft the best player available, like Tennessee with Abdul Carter, Shador,
But speaking of Derek Carr,
Travis Hunter.
don't be shocked if Derek Carr doesn't wind up here.
Oh, don't.
It's possible. It's
John, stop
possible.
it.
That would
I'm
be a
telling you,
very
it's possible.
Steelers move.
I'm telling you,
actually.
I'm telling you, it is possible.
Derek Carr is a poster boy for me of like, if I can tell that he's not a great NFL quarterback, why can't these NFL
Is there a more
GMs?
cursed NFL family than the Cars?
Oh my goodness, you're right. You're right.
Let me just point this out. This is going back a ways. The year that Peyton Manning, and you mentioned if you can realize that a guy's not going to be good. Mel Kiper in 1998 basically had Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf like neck and neck.
They were.
The only question was at the time, I remember them saying they think Manning's more like, I don't know if this is the right term to use, but mentally stable. They thought Leaf could be kind of.
You don't say.
And
Leaf
as
had
it turned out, that's exactly what I mean. Ryan Leaf
Yeah.
was a head case.
Leaf had the stronger arm.
Knock it off, man.
Yeah. But you go. I remember that draft, and it was pretty much split throughout the NFL. But half the teams would have taken Leaf first, half the teams would have taken Manning first. I mean, it wasn't like there was a clear-cut better man there entering that draft. You don't know about quarterbacks when you draft them. You just don't know. I mean, come on, go back. There's been so many first-round busts at quarterback. So
Marcus
many.
Russell.
There's been a lot of them. You just don't know. I mean, to me, looking at answering Brendan's question here, I think right now, out of all their options, Fields would probably be their most logical one. I mean,
can't think of a better option.
Sign a guy to like a 2 or 3 year deal.
The thing is, he wants to be here too. Like, he keeps reposting pictures of himself and Steelers stuff on Instagram. And I think, and Derek might roll his eyes at this because it sounds like I'm like lavishing praise on him, but when he got benched last year, you didn't hear a peep out of him. He wasn't complaining. He went the rest of the season and just did his job.
He was.
And if you remember, right when they made the move, which was before the Jet game, I said, why are they making this change? I mean, Fields is playing well. They're 4-2. It's not like they're 1-5. But then Wilson came in, and even Terry Hanratty admitted on the show a few weeks ago, Wilson came in, and you could obviously see the improvement in the downfield passing game.
Right.
But he's also, he's going to next year, by next season, Wilson's going to be, 37?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he also did not play well down the stretch. I'm totally fine with them rolling with Fields. I am.
You know what else they need though too? Like it's beyond just quarterback. They're gonna need a second wide receiver.
Well,
They're
that's
gonna
the
need
thing.
a running back.
They need a first wide receiver.
They need a body at wide receiver.
I think that goes with flexibility. If they've built the offensive line, like this year's offensive line, I don't think they have to add that much. I know defensive tackles a need and cornerbacks a need, and that's initially what I typed in was what should the Steelers do with the first round pick in the draft, because that's also something I've written about. But there's wide receivers there. There's a Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. I wrote recently Luther Burden was
mentions the Ohio State guy first.
He might be the best. Well, one of the best receivers. There's Tedero McMillan, who's not going to drop to the Steelers. He's going top 15.
Yeah.
I remember when he was like a high schooler going in, and everybody knew that he was going to be good. And I liked how he flipped from Oregon to Arizona, because all these guys go to the big schools, and he went to a smaller one. But they'll have their option of a receiver there. Like, it's almost a sure thing. They won't have to trade. They can just use that pick. If they're bad next year, I'm not going to say I'd be happy with them being bad, but at least they went into the season with the most logical path.
Don't even use the T word on me.
I mean, yeah,
I don't know. I want them. I want them to succeed.
I do think there's a degree of truth though to what you're saying. Is like, you're not fixing this team in 1 year. Like, this team is not going to become a Super Bowl contender next year.
No.
There's too many holes, especially on offense. There's too many holes to fill.
The other thing is too, if you don't find some receivers, I mean, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It's not going to make any difference. But I like Fields too, because
I have a
Fields,
Jahad Dotson for you.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion Jahad Dotson.
Fields would naturally help their running game too, because defenses would have to worry about Fields running the ball.
Yeah.
So he would naturally help their running backs if he's the quarterback.
Assuming Najee Harris is gone, which he most likely is. Are you looking at free agency or the draft for a running back?
Got to be draft.
I'd wait second round of the draft. Yeah. I'd go receiver, running back in the draft.
Maybe even third round for running back.
Let me ask you this. I mean, obviously they're going to have somebody else at running back between if they draft somebody but can Jaylen Warren, if he needs to next year, can he carry the load for a while? Is he a guy that can carry the ball 20
He's a tough guy. I think
he's a tough guy, but he's also.
I don't think so. He's not that type of back. Though.
I think you need the offensive line needs to stay healthy, so he has his best blockers in front of him, and you have to have a better passing game to take attention off of him. Absolutely. That's how if you put him in the right system, I think Warren can be really good, but I don't think he's not a bell cow who can carry the offense. He needs the offense to carry him. I like Warren. I think he's explosive as heck, but he's not the kind that can push through for 4 yards a carry when it's tough.
Well, the thing is, you don't see a lot of first-round running backs at this point. Ashton Jeanty's going to go first round, but then I know you're going to say Ohio State, but they had 2 running backs there, and Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. One of them could be there when the Steelers draft in the second round.
And I was going to ask, do you take Jeanty in the first round if he slides? Because
for the Steelers, if he's there, I would strongly consider it.
With the mileage too. That's the biggest thing that gives me I don't care that he.
Derrick Henry had mileage.
Yeah.
I thought he was like a fluke until he went up against Penn. He didn't do well against Penn State, because you look at Penn State's defensive line compared to Boise State's offensive line. If he would have transferred somewhere this year to say Alabama or Georgia, he would have won the Heisman probably. He was a few votes away from winning the Heisman as it was. So I think that he's a really talented running back that could be a franchise running back.
But personally, I would not take Jeanty in the first round. I think they have more pressing needs at wide receiver. I mean, go get me a stud receiver with that first round pick. Because the other thing, like I said, if they do sign Fields and he's your quarterback, just plays where Fields either hands the ball off or keeps it. That's gonna help no matter who the running back is back there with them, because Fields is such a threat to run the ball.
If they don't do the logical thing and sign Fields, I'm going to be so upset. Like, it's right in front of you. Like, you don't have to make everything complicated. If something's right in front of you, just go with it. He's been in your room for a year now.
I just don't see a better option.
You'll cry your Buckeye tears if they don't.
If they trade a 1 and a 2 for Matthew Stafford, you might not see me at work the next day.
The Steelers offseason.
That's not going to happen either. I don't know where that's coming from.
My dreams, John.
All right. Read the question.
Who was the first Pro Football Hall of Famer that the Steelers drafted?
Bill Dudley.
Oh, he buried it.
Yeah, he got it.
Do you know
what year? I'm 12 and 13.
Do you know what year he was drafted?
42.
Yeah.
That's a bonus point.
Do you know when he played until?
Oh, come on.
His last year, it wasn't all with the Steelers. His last year, I want to say, was.
The wheels are turning.
Lars just got the soundboard.
48.
Oh, 53.
I think he went to the war. I think he fought in the war, too. I think he had a couple of years off there.
That's right.
You beat me today, Derek.
You're pushing toward 500. You're trying to get back to 500.
12 and 13.
Just like those Pirates.
Well, they've been pushing that for a while.
Hey, have more. Hey, speaking of, that's our next topic. So, have more faith in me with trivia than the Pirates on the diamond. I'm sorry. Anyhow, that's John. You got the question right. You know what we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
So spring training has started for all Major League Baseball teams, and I remember John with several colorful stories he had when he covered spring training for the Pirates back in the 90s.
96.
So what paper was this for?
The Steubenville Herald Star.
Okay.
Yep.
So first of all, this was like a dream for you, right? I mean, you'd
Oh my
always
gosh.
dreamed.
It was on my bucket list for sure. Yeah.
So what went on down there? How many times did you get arrested?
Well, no arrest. But what happened was, it's a long story short. We turned into a vacation. I agreed to go down there, use a week's vacation, and work as well as I was down there. So this was a paid trip for me. This was paid by the newspaper for me to go.
Technically.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect anything less of you than working on your vacation. So.
Hey, to me, if I'm covering baseball, that's not work if I'm covering baseball. Well, I remember it was Jason Kendall's rookie year. You do know Jason Kendall,
yes.
Right? Good. Thank you. Okay. Jason Kendall's rookie year, and I remember working with the Pirates staff down there because I wanted to get a one-on-one with Jason Kendall because obviously he was a huge prospect then and high hopes for him and all that. I remember sitting in the bullpen, just like Jason Kendall and I were lounging on the bullpen. Our legs were over the fence down the right field wall. That's how laid back spring training games are.
Mojito in one hand, cigar in the other.
We're doing an interview while the game's going on, and we're just chatting back and forth. I mean, the atmosphere at spring training. If you're a baseball fan, one time in your life you've got to get down there. One time. I mean, it's this baseball paradise. I mean, I remember I received a pass for the Grapefruit League. That's the name of the league, and all the Florida teams playing, all the teams that spring trained down in Florida. And we would go to a game. I remember seeing the Pirates play the Yankees at the Yankees' new complex in Tampa one night. That afternoon, we went over and watched the White Sox play the Cardinals. We went to the Reds camp. I mean, there's like 5 teams within like a half hour's drive from Bradenton, and just going back and forth to just seeing like two games a day. And the minor league complex is right there also in Pirate City. So I'd go over there, wander over there, and talk to some of the top minor league prospects. There's a guy driving around the golf cart around the minor league complex, and this guy driving the golf cart was Lloyd McClendon, the eventual Pirate manager. Back then he was in like minor league coordinator. That was his job, and he was driving around, and he pulls up next to me. I'm walking around. He goes, "You looking for somebody for a certain player?" And I wanted to do something back then on Chad Hermanson, who was their big time prospect, who of course never made it, but. And I'll take you right to him. So I'm jumping a golf cart with Lloyd McClendon, and we're driving. There's like 5 fields there, all spread out, major league size diamonds. We're driving. He takes me and calls him over, and I get a one-on-one with Chad Hermanson, just like that. I mean, that's just how it was there.
So did you get a story every day down there?
Oh, multiple. I mean, and with no problem. I mean, you don't need to spend a day there, but you can go there. You can show up like for the morning workouts and get as many stories as you want, probably within an hour, 90 minutes time. You get as many stories you want because everyone's accessible all the time. Like they'll call somebody out of a workout to come talk to you if you wanted to talk to them. It's so different from the regular season. I mean, I went into the clubhouse one time after morning workout and just went player to player and did a story on their favorite memories from Little League. Just a different type of story. You can't do that during the regular season. You just can't do it. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, you're not going to have the access. The players aren't going to talk about it. They're in regular season mode. Spring training mode with these guys is just so different. I mean, it's so laid back. I just loved every second I was down there.
Jake, would you like to get down? Where do the Phillies train down there?
Clearwater.
Clearwater.
It's not far away.
No,
Yeah.
it's not that far away.
I think it's what 10 miles. They're really not.
You got
far away at all.
you got Tampa. You got Clearwater. You've got. I'm trying to think where the Reds. Sarasota's right there.
Sarasota.
Like I said, I know there were 5 teams within like a half hour's drive.
So is the story true that when you were sitting in the golf cart with Lloyd McClendon that day, you said, if you ever get upset, I want to see you walk out, and I want to see you grab first base and walk off the field with it?
No, that is not true. But I will tell one bad story I experienced down there. I don't know if this will make the cut on this podcast or not, but I'll give it a shot. I'm in Tampa. Like I said, the Pirates played the Yankees that night. I'm doing something on Kevin Young after the game. I'm down in the Pirates clubhouse. I'm interviewing Kevin Young. He said, I'll have a seat. So I sit down next to his locker, and you guys remember a Pirate pitcher named Denny Nagel?
Yeah.
I'll stand up pitch for that.
Number 15.
He comes walking. His locker is next to Kevin Young, so I'm sitting on Denny Nagel's stool while I'm interviewing Kevin Young, and he walks over and I'll excuse me, no, you're good. I'll just change right here. So he's changing, just got out of the shower. He's changing. He bends over, and his cheeks, so to speak, are right next to my face, and he just cuts one loose.
Oh, God.
And it was the grossest, worst thing. Kevin Young even goes, "Oh my God!" He goes, "Are you okay?" And I guess my face went like, it was the worst thing.
He probably turned the shade of purple at the one wrestler who passed out of my sectional did.
And some other player, I forget who the other player was, but some other player walks over. He saw it happen. He goes, hey, but our apologies. He goes, Nagel's known for that. Nagel was known for doing that. He says, we're so sad. No, Nagel's like laughing. He's like laughing. But that was my one negative experience from
cheeks,
from Braden,
so to speak.
Yeah. Hey, I'm trying to keep it as clean as possible.
I appreciate the 1995 season when Nagel was by far the Pirates' best pitcher.
Yes.
I think he went like 15-8 that year.
That was his big year with him.
ERA was like under 3,
Yeah.
and that's what I always remembered him as. But now I'm going to have another memory.
Yeah. That's my memory of him. I'll tell you that. It's always been my
Those
memory.
cheeks were 15-8.
Oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable. It's incredible.
We appreciate you joining us this week, John. Thanks
I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for the time.
Sure.
Be sure to check out ButlerEagle.com and the newspaper this week.
We encourage you to subscribe to the Butler Eagle YouTube channel and Apple or Spotify podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast and at Butler Eagle News. Goodbye.